The rain was still falling when Daniel realized that his life had become a collection of unfinished beginnings. His desk was cluttered with half-read books, half-written goals, and half-lived dreams. He was not idle. He simply faded. His enthusiasm burned bright and then disappeared, like a match unable to sustain its own spark. Outside, the city moved with purpose. Bicycle bells rang, street vendors called out to early buyers, and trains departed with decisive rhythm. Everyone seemed to be going somewhere, while Daniel remained exactly where he was, wrapped in the comfortable illusion that tomorrow would be the day he began again. That evening, as thunder rolled across the sky, he wandered through the city park. Beneath the iron gazebo sat an elderly man, his shoulders slightly bent, his hands trembling as he placed each piece upon a chessboard. He played alone. The game looked quiet, almost sacred. Daniel hesitated, watching in silence, until the old man looked up. "Do you play?" he asked without lifting his gaze from the board. "A little," Daniel said softly, "but I am terrible at finishing games." The man smiled with the faint weariness of someone who had seen that truth many times before. "Then you and I are alike," he said, "except that I kept playing." Daniel sat opposite him. The pieces were old, polished smooth by decades of touch. "How long have you been playing?" he asked. The man adjusted his glasses and answered, 60 years. I was not talented when I began. I am still not, but talent is overrated. Consistency is the quiet strength most people forget." He gestured toward the board. "Most players begin for excitement, but excitement dies by the 10th move. Discipline, however, endures to the endgame." Daniel watched as the man moved a pawn forward, slow and deliberate. "Do you never lose interest?" he asked. The old man chuckled. "Of course I do, but the board does not care. The rules remain the same whether I am inspired or exhausted. The game rewards only the one who returns." Those words struck something deep within Daniel. The board does not care. Neither did his unfinished plans, his fading motivation, or his empty promises. All of them required not passion, but presence. That night, Daniel retrieved his neglected chessboard, the pieces still carrying a thin layer of dust. He made a quiet promise to himself that he would play one game each day, no matter how he felt. He would not play for victory, nor for improvement, but for discipline itself. The first game was clumsy. His mind drifted, his focus scattered, and he checked his phone more than once. Yet he finished. The next day he played again, forcing his restless thoughts into quiet order. By the 5th day, the effort no longer felt forced. A rhythm had begun to take root. Weeks passed. The weather changed, yet Daniel's ritual remained constant. Each evening, he sat before the board and confronted his own inconsistency. He noticed how impatience cost him queens and how arrogance blinded him to traps. Slowly, these lessons began to move beyond the game. He started waking earlier. He read without distraction. He wrote goals that he no longer abandoned. One Sunday, Daniel returned to the park. The old man was there again, just as before, as though time itself had preserved him. He was not perfect, but he was consistent, and that, he realized, was the greater victory. Daniel approached and asked for another game. The man smiled. "You came back. Most people do not." They played in silence. After 45 minutes, Daniel made a bold move, sacrificing a rook to protect his king. The old man paused, studying him with quiet admiration. "You have learned patience," he said. "That is the hardest piece to master." When the game ended, Daniel had lost, yet he felt no sting of defeat. He rose, shook the man's hand, and said, "Thank you." "For what?" the man asked. "For teaching me what no book ever could. Motivation is noise, discipline is music." The old man nodded slowly. "Precisely. One fades, the other endures." From that day forward, Daniel stopped chasing motivation as if it were a gust of wind. He learned to respect boredom, to see it not as an enemy, but as a forge. He replaced it with ritual, steady and deliberate. He studied even when tired. He practiced when uninspired. Somewhere between repetition and resistance, he found freedom. The peace of knowing that he no longer needed to feel ready in order to begin. Months passed, and Daniel's life changed quietly. There was no dramatic transformation, only subtle evidence of endurance. His journals filled with completed thoughts. His tasks, once abandoned, now ended with neat check marks. The fire he had been searching for no longer came from inspiration, but from identity. He stopped asking how to stay motivated and began asking how to remain faithful to the work when no one was watching. One evening, as the rain returned to the city, Daniel placed a single pawn at the center of the board. He looked at it and whispered, "It was never about the game. It was about who I became between each move." He smiled, realizing that even the smallest piece, moving one square at a time, could reach the other side and transform. Not through passion, but through persistence. What we learn from this story is that motivation may start the game, but only discipline wins it.